Okay, people. So today, right, we got a special edition of Echo Chamber, and I am joined by Gabriel Foster Prior, the writer and director of The Bystanders.
This one's meant to be good.
Yeah, I can't be asked for subtitles.
I've seen this one. I'm pretty sure the Diplodocus wasn't around in the Triassic period.
And I'm pretty sure dinosaurs couldn't talk.
We got some really I don't think people are saying like it's as good as these things, but they've compared it to some 3 different people mentioned Edgar Wright, and then one review mentioned Terry Gilliam, and one review mentioned Red Dwarf. And you, as a first-time filmmaker or a first-time director, it doesn't matter if they're just helping the audience to push it in the right way. You can't help but see your name with your heroes in the same sentence and be like, "That's fucking cool." So I know they're just doing it to send people down the right track to get you to find your movie. But I reckon that's some of the most like where it's actually giving you a little happy buzz moments was you see when you see that, like all those people that you, especially like, you know, people you loved when you were younger. It's like that teenage, the inner teenager, you know, being not compared to, but having a film, you know, make a film and have someone mention a filmmaker that you loved when you were younger. That's like a really
Yes. You know, there was the chess sequence towards the end.
Forgot how boring chess is.
So boring.
That really reminded me of that IT Crowd episode with Benedict Wong when they were doing the street countdown.
Oh, great.
Do you remember that episode?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. Me and Jack Hughes, who I wrote the film with, we never made this film, but we wrote a film together. This was before that, before IT Crowd, when we were doing A-level maths. We were meant to be revising for A-level maths, and instead we wrote a film in his parents' kitchen called The Golden Calculator, which was about an underground maths tournament. And there was like a character, each character had a specialism, and there was like one called like there was all kind, it was like the world of hip hop and the world of maths kind of. So there was one guy who was like spirals, and he was all about geometry and graffiti. And then there was one guy who was like, he was really good at rapping, but also like sequences.
Right.
You know, I should revisit it one day. I'd love to see it because
that could be fun, man.
We were 15, but it's funny you say that because there's that. I guess there's the yeah. Well, me and Jack both love the IT Crowd, and I think, you know, I think there's actually more of an influence because it is you know, it's a comedy and it isn't I don't know, it's not that serious a film, should we say? So I would say, like, in terms of influences, I think like TV, like British sitcoms are as much of an influence as any kind of cinematic references. So me and Jack, you know, our shared love of things like the IT Crowd or like Red Dwarf. And that's, I think, something we're really good at. Like, I think that's something that Britain's really good at is like all those shows are just so good and people love them all around the world. I just meet people all the time. Like, you meet someone who's, you know, Polish and grew up there, but was like, yeah, we had Black Books in Poland and we all love it. And it's like, yeah, of course you do. It's great. The Little Book of Calm. How can you not love it?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's just like things like Alan Partridge, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's getting those things that are so uniquely British. And this has got a quintessential British feel to it. Like, you watch it and you be like, yeah, that fits in with these kind of sensibilities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're all written differently. They've all got their own kind of aesthetics and feel to them. But there's just there's that thing. There's that untangible thing that
You know
you
what?
go,
There's someone I had this discussion in this like panel we did at like as part of like Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival. It was like an online panel, and they talked about that. And I don't remember if it was me or someone else had this idea. Don't want to take credit for it in case it wasn't, but I thought it was very nicely put. They also kind of mentioned it in the Guardian review as well, and lots of people would have said something similar before as well. It's the mundanities of life combined with the big ideas of sci-fi, and I think that there's something about the little details and little annoyances of life and blowing them massively out of proportion that's somehow intrinsically British.
mm,
And I think when people talk about that Britishness, I think there's an element of that. There's an element of like, it's also kind of silly, you know, surrealism would be giving it a bit too much credit. I think it's more silliness rather than surrealism. But like, you know, there's of like combining kind of big ideas with little mundane annoyances and sillinesses. So
yeah.
that's kind of in my head when people say that intrinsic Britishness, that's what I think they mean.
I think you're right, you know, because it is about, I think sometimes you're watching an American show and everything's big, right? Someone's got the best job, right? They've got the best life, the best apartment, the best, and it's big, flashy, showy, but it's not.
They have to get divorced at the start of the film, and it has to be, exactly. Whereas, you know, the guy, the English TV show just misses the bus, you know, that kind of.
Yes. So you wake up and you know you've got no tea bags, you've got no coffee, right? The cereal's run out, you know, no toilet paper. It's just those things which is like we seem to kind of capture, which I think is that charm because you don't see them in other things, right? People never seem to go to the toilet in in a big tempo. You know, you never see Vin Diesel going, right, we've got to drive through. Shit. I need a piss.
The only time I've ever seen that if I go to the toilet in the film is Synecdoche, New York, the Charlie Kaufman film. I remember you just see Philip Hoffman. At some point, Philip Seymour Hoffman just goes for a shit, and you're like, maybe I don't need to see that in films. Maybe I see why they haven't been doing it. Now I see it. I'm like, could have not seen it. I mean, I have been fine. I've got someone going to the toilet in my film. What are you talking about? There's a whole scene. I've seen it twice. I don't know how proud I should be of that scene, but there's a whole scene involving a guy going to the toilet, right?
Yes. Yes, you've got it. You've got it in there.
Oh, shit.
You know, I think we should say, right, you've worked all through the industry, right? Your background, you've done a lot of different things, which is, you know, very impressive. You know, we talked to oh my god, I forgot his name again.
Matt.
James Gilby. Is it James Gilby?
Will Gilby.
That's it. Will Gilby about Summit Fever. And Julian.
Julian.
Yes.
His brothers. There's two of them.
Yes. Yeah.
They're very talented filmmaking brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, because we covered Summit Fever. I enjoyed Summit Fever. I had a great conversation with Julian about that, and then I saw you edited it. And
no, I didn't edit it. I did the assembly edit. So that's basically when you're getting in the footage at the beginning, and it's like the first pass of the edit. So I was working with Julian, and we were building the scene so he could check that he's got what he wanted and check he's happy with everything, and it was so that sometimes they use some of the stuff you do in the final cut. I don't actually know exactly what they did and didn't use. I wouldn't want to take credit for the full edit of that one, but I did really enjoy working with Julian because we're friends. So it was just good fun.
Well, I mean, that's an
They would
interesting.
shout about the rugby, and I was trying to, Jules, I don't care about the rugby. I'm not into rugby. And he's like, yeah, but you must have watched the game last night. I was like, no, I don't watch rugby. Yeah, the next day, I turn up and be like, Gabriel, the game last night. Tell me you did watch the game last night. I think, Jules, I don't watch rugby. I do love Jules. He's great. But yeah, no, that's like the editing's like whether it's I edit, you know, sometimes it's an assembly edit, sometimes it's the full edit of a film. Sometimes I just do like a trailer, whatever it is. But like that's my job, and it has been for like 10, 15 years, and I don't really have another one. So I'm kind of I have to edit films where I don't, you know, I can't pay my way. So so that means I've done a lot of stuff, and I've done a lot of eclectic stuff. And I always find it interesting when I hear people talk about like, how do you choose a project? And I like, you choose a project? I'm like, I don't choose a project. I get given projects. And sometimes I'm lucky, like with Summit Fever, that it's something cool. And I get to meet, you know, lots of great people. You know, people talk about, oh, as an editor, like, how does it help direct? And I think one of the main things is actually you've seen so many other people do it, and everyone does it differently. And what that makes you realize is that there are no rules, so you can do it however you want. And don't listen to anyone that tells you have to do it this way or that way, because any book that says you have to do it this way, or any podcast you listen to that says you can't do this, if you're an editor, you've seen a director break that rule.
Lexi, main light off.
You know, a lot of people, when they're like, especially like kind of like maybe when you're at film school or when you're like first starting out in film, you're like, I've got this set thing and I've got to do it like this, and it's got to be like this. I've got a vision. I want to do this. And it's like really hard to, you know, it's not that kind of medium. You know, I think, and you mentioned Matt Hulse earlier, who was one of my film tutors when I was at a film school in Edinburgh. And he's someone who's great at this. He's very adaptive. And he'll see like, okay, this has happened, this has changed, but this is more interesting. Let's go with this. So his films are always changing as he makes them. He's a real kind of like, he's a you know, a godfather of this in that sense, because he's an incredibly adaptive filmmaker. His films will completely change from the start to the finish, because he will not just be like practically solving problems. He'll be like intellectually going, oh, it's more interesting now. Oh, actually, you know, this thing that's happened has gone wrong or whatever, write that into it somehow, you know, fold it in. He's always folding it in. And you don't have to do it to that extreme, but I do think that, you know, you go, okay, we haven't got that location, what can we do? And you have to just try and find something that will do the, you know, fill the point that you need to do, fill the scene that you need to do, get that information across. But it's such a cliche, but it's so true. Quite often you're forced to come up with this solution and it ends up being so much more interesting than what you had planned, because you're like, you know, like those kids that can like suddenly swim and go and save their mum when they need to in the beach, you know. You're like that. You're like, I have to do this to save my film. What's a good idea? And then you're like, oh, actually, that's a really good idea. You know where it comes from, but you kind of you have to. So yeah, lots of lessons learned from lots of people. But I think, you know, I would have, if I'd tried to make a feature film straight out of film school, having not worked in the industry, I think I would have been more like one track minded or more tunnel vision about like really trying to do, you know, one set thing, and it has to be this one set way.
Yes.
And I think if I learned one thing from the film industry, it's at whatever level you're at, I think it's about being responsive and open-minded to doing things a slightly different way to what you had planned, and, you know, looking for opportunities at every situation, even if it's something going wrong, and seeing it as an opportunity.
Okay. Like, did you always want to direct?
I definitely went to film school to be a director. And then in film school, I edited a short film with a friend of mine, Paul Maguire, his short film Pebble, which got like I don't know what it was called at that point. It's like the Scottish Student BAFTAs, but it was like Scottish students on screen or something. But it was a BAFTA, you know, for Scottish students. And he got nominated for that, and we went to Glasgow to the BAFTA thingies. And then I ended up, because of that, and just because of people, I knew the programs really well, because I'd come from a graphic design background. I taught myself, or learned from my dad and taught myself graphic design when I was very young. So that, and then I picked up all the editing programs very quickly, and then I was really into it. So I like learned them really, really well. And then I became the person at film school that people would ask for editing, like technical advice, but also became a lot of people asking me to edit their short films. So I came out of film school as an editor, but I'd kind of gone in wanting to direct. And then I continued to direct short films throughout my 20s and early 30s. But I kind of didn't, the naivety of youth made me think I had all the time in the world and that I would conquer editing and then move on to directing. But obviously, real life's not like that. And he said, I think I turned 30 and I realized, wait, if I'm not doing this now, when am I doing this? So I really started to think about trying to do an indie feature as a director, kind of around early 30s.
Hello, can you sign this card for Pete? Pete, IT. Can you sign this card for Pete? Pete, IT. Shit, I've been calling him Paul. Yeah, apparently it's Pete. Can you sign this birthday card for Pete? Yo, can you sign this card for Pete? I'm Pete. Oh, shit, sorry. Be there today.
I think it tells you a lot more about the process, and it gives you some different guides to, you know, the way you direct something. I imagine, like when you're writing the script, did the editing of it factor in when you're writing out a scene? You're thinking, oh, actually, let's do it like this because it would work better in the edit.
So yes, and the only thing is, you definitely edit in your head. You edit in your head when you're writing. You edit in your head when you're on set, and on set it's different because you're live changing the plan, as we were talking about, because everything changes on set, everything all the time, especially low budget. Everything's always changing. So on the script, you can just, you know, utopian plan, edit in your head, and then on set you're changing the edit as live in your head. The only thing is about that is I don't want to say that's something that you get from being an editor, because I talk to other directors who aren't editors and they tell me they do that too. But maybe it helps to do that, but it is definitely something you do. But it's something I think all directors do. But I guess one thing I'm always doing as well is like you're ticking off everything that you've got as well. So you've got the actual, like, okay, how are we going to get from, you've got the grammar, so that are we going from the wide to the close up? Oh, that shot, is it going to go round, you know, are we going to cross the line if we, you know, or if we do deliberately, where, and, you know, where are we changing perspective? Like, is this now seen through this character's eyes? Are we doing, you know, all that kind of grammar stuff? You're doing all that. But then you've got like a chopping list in your head as well. So you've got that stuff going on over there. And then over here, you've got like this moment. I know I need this moment. I know this is whatever else we get in the scene. I know I need this moment. I need to feel it. I know this moment it needs to be funny. So you've got like kind of priority moments that you have to get. And if you ever end up doing lots of takes, or end up doing one, you know, sometimes you see directors and they look like they've gone mad because they're just doing the same thing again and again and again. Again, I know that's not just me, because I've heard actors talk about big directors doing it. But I think that's usually because it's one of those key moments that you've got in your shopping basket in your head, and you haven't quite got it yet. So you can't get everything exactly like you want, but you will have a few key moments that you know you need for the story. And those you don't want to leave set until you've got them. Because I guess, again, every director, I think that applies to, but I think as an editor, the added experience that you have is having been in the suite and not having one of those moments, and the director going, I kind of knew we didn't get that. I kind of knew we needed it. Is there anything we can do? And you're like, we'll try, but you haven't got it. And it's horrible. It's horrible to know that. And you see, especially when you see so much footage, like they've gone to the location, everyone's done everything's dressed the set, done the lights, and you've got hours of rushes, but this one moment that would have been really important for the film, you're now going to have to fudge something in the edit. And that feeling is so, oh no. And the director is like, oh, and you go, okay, I can't have that.
There's the knowing this thing. And as you said, you've spoken to other directors who do it in their head, but I guess sometimes you don't know what that is, right? Because there's things that I've done in the past, but I've not known the name of. And you're talking to someone and be like, oh, you do that? I'm like, oh, that's what you call it? Oh,
Right.
I was just doing this thing, right? And it's just like, it's something that you kind of work out, but you don't always know the name of. It's like I've done a lot of photo shoots and you're having to write out the scenarios, you know what I mean? Dress the scenes. And there's definitely been those times and you're like, oh, I really need this shot. Fuck, I really need it. Oh my God, I've wasted all this time. And then you find the picture and be like, oh, we did take the shot.
Oh, great.
But you just forgot that you took that shot. And it's just like, gee, oh man, well, that was a waste of fucking time, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's very funny. Yeah. There's a lot going on. You can easily forget things like that.
Oh my God, yeah. And then you just feel like you're such an idiot. You just been saying to people, why did we fucking forget it? We just wasted all this time. I don't have the budget to go back. What the fuck? Yeah. You're like, oh yeah, that's the photo. Okay.
After the shoot, it's such a weird time. You get obsessed with things. You're like, how did I let that towel be on the back of that door? I hate myself for that. And you're like, a year later, you're like, I do not care that there's a towel on the back of that. Why did I care about that? I do not give myself, like the few weeks after a shoot, I do not give myself an easy time. I am so annoyed at myself for all these tiny things. Some of them matter, but lots of them don't.
Oh, God damn. Yeah, I can only, because I've organized events and in the moment, you're just like, well, this is shit. Like, is anyone here? Is anyone enjoying themselves? This was just, God damn it. I know I should have done that thing and we should have advertised there and we should have done this. And then you see someone and be like, yo, this is fucking great. Awesome. And you're like, what? And you see someone and be like, I think they're fucking with me. They said this is good. And then they're like, yeah, this is great. You're like,
yeah.
I don't know what's happening.
It's easier to believe this is bad than this is good.
For sure.
Yes. If someone says that's bad, I go, yeah, that makes sense. I thought that actually myself. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
No. Going into the filming, what did you kind of think was going to be the biggest problem for you? And what kind of aspect maybe was the biggest headache?
In what aspect of it?
Of just anything, man. When you're like going, oh, I think we're gonna have a problem with this location, or I don't think we've got enough days, or you know what I mean? You just have those preconceptions sometimes going into something, but then it turns out that was not a problem at all.
All of those things, like there was so many things like that, locations, casting, all of the things. We did break those. I think the locations is probably the biggest one because we did break the kind of rule of, you're meant to, if you have a micro budget, low budget film, you're meant to do a single location or very limited location film. Like that's what you're meant to do. And the people that say to do that are right, because it's really hard to do lots of locations and weird locations. And we've got a swimming pool, we've got a football stadium, like an abandoned strip club, all these things. So we kind of deliberately did that as a way of standing out. And having worked on lots of films and lots of indie films, it's actually something that I think it might be Julian Gilby or it might be his brother Will coined this phrase of like white wall movies. And it's like, because we work on a lot of UK indie movies, it's like the background of my Zoom right now, this white wall kind of thing. Because people shoot in rented London flats.
Yes. And
rented London flats are always white or cream because they just don't want to risk the value of the property, whatever. So it's really, and then people shoot, and it's just you have these frames where you just have actors in front of these white walls, and it's very hard to light that and make it look anything but kind of boring. And I was like, I really didn't want this to be a kind of white wall movie, you know. I really wanted this to be, because what is a shot? You know, it's usually a person and a background. Like a lot of a film is mids, close-ups, wide, you know. So, you know, locations was really something we really wanted to we didn't want it to just be too plain. So we went a bit out there with that, and that really was really hard because unit moves, you know, are really hard. Like just moving from one location to another on a low budget is really hard. And you what you do is, because you don't have the money, like the big budget money, is you spend a lot of time instead of money. So we had a location scout called Cam, and me and Cam would, you know, and the producer Louisa as well was involved a lot in like finding locations. And we spent a lot of time going through and like looking at loads of options until we found someone that would let us do it, and let us do it as something we could afford. So that's all great, but it took weeks and months to get to that point.
Yes.
And then if one of them falls through, you don't have weeks and months anymore. And the alternative is 10 times the price because you've gone out your way to find a cheap one. So it is fine if nothing goes wrong, but in a couple of cases we did have location dropouts, and that was a giant spanner in the works. And that was the point where you have to like really think on your feet and start like, you know, changing the script on the fly, or trying to change something to look like something else, you know. With the production design, I wanted to have trench coats originally because it was kind of a Wings of Desire thing, you know, like having a bit like the angels in Wings of Desire. And then me and Heidi tried to find, she was doing costumes as well as production design. And we tried to find cheap trench coats, and it was really hard. And in the end, we got these commuter coats, which are like 1960s, what people used to wear like on top of their blazers to like get on the public transport to go to work in the 60s. And we found a way of getting a bunch of those cheap. And, you know, obviously it wasn't what I had planned, but I think I prefer it because trench coats is so much more trodden turf, you know, you just kind of make tricks. And I think other films that have tried to do something similar to what we're doing, usually that's like the kind of obvious choice. So as soon as we did something that wasn't trench coats, it's like, oh, it's just a bit different, and different's usually better. So so all the things that were problems, you know, it was just, as I said before, it was just, you have to just not be set in your ways, and then it's fine.
I think it's those things that set people apart, right? That show you the capacity of someone, right? That you can think on your feet, because most people can work to a plan or to work to guidance, but to be able to make those pivots and those sharp pivots, there's something to that, you know. And I think aesthetically, you have these really great visuals in the film. There's those coats. It like the bystanders kind of remind me of bellhops, right? But
right. Yeah.
It's not like, and that's not a dig or anything. It's this unique kind of look, and it just like that thing. It just jumped in my head. I'm like, yeah, they look like sci-fi bellhops. You know what I mean? But it's like it's there's a charm to it. You know.
I remember that. That's class. I love that. Sci-fi bellhops.
Sort you out of your costume? I think we managed to get one in your size.
Oh, did you?
Nope.
And I really liked the blimping. The glimping. It was blimping.
Oh, pings when they teleport.
Yes, there's a lot of people use smoke or something, but you did that outline, and then it's a squiggly, and I like that. I don't recall seeing anything like that in the pinging, in the jumping. So I like that kind of unique kind of touch to it.
Yeah. So what we do is we just me and Jack, the writer, and it's something that we used to do when we were teenagers. and he made pieces in this way for his like digital arts degree and stuff as well. And then I went off to film school and carried on doing a bit of it as well, encouraged by Matt, because Matt loves that kind of Matt Hulse, who you know, really encouraged me in this side as well, which is the hands-on stuff. So yeah, but me and Jack did it together for this film. We came back to, you know, because we wrote it together, we were like, this is a thing we both like. You print out the frames and then you paint or draw on top. You print them out kind of low contrast, and then you paint and you draw, and so you kind of got like a was it like you're tracing almost, you know.
Oh,
And then you paint or you draw on top, and then you scan them back in, and you threshold it or you color key it so that you lose the base layer, and you're just left with your drawings. And then there's an element of computer tweaking, which is so for example, with the swirls, when we do the swirls, we put a dot in each position of where, like, on either side of the person. So we'll have like set like 8 dots of where they're going to be, and we put that on each frame. So you're printing every frame as a piece of paper. So your flat is full of pieces of paper with these pictures of people with dots around them. And then you're doing a swish of paint, like first just 1, and then 1, 2, then 1, 2, 3. But obviously then you have to, when you've got the swishes, they're not going behind people's bodies and around their arms and stuff. You're getting a really natural, nice swish because you're doing it with your hand. So then you scan in the swish, and you take it into Photoshop, and you delete anything that would be behind their chest or around their arm. So you get it to actually go round them. We didn't want to be something that you've seen before, but our slightly less good version of it. It's like, let's just do something completely different, and then it will be. And because we had worked, me and Jack had done this together, and we were writing the script together. It was during the writing we were like, oh, and when they teleport, should we do the rotoscopy thing? You know, so it was really early planned in, and we do that for the teleporting. We do it for the pings with the little finger where there's a level.
It's fun and it's unique. So it's like your little signature now. You know what I mean? And I think it's those kind of elements that really help make a film stand out.
I should flag up, like, there's also another layer of person involved. My brother Frank. When there's, like, you know, the one where he first turns from black and white to color, and the whole background goes. So that's my brother Frank doing and he does that on the computer in After Effects. And in that one, we actually, where we wanted it to change from black and white to color. And again, we knew you're going to have to kind of do it on the computer, but we wanted to have an organic feel. So Jack came round, met up with Jack and my brother, and we dropped green paint, like from a height, onto a bit of paper, and filmed splashes of paint. And then Frank had that as elements. He took it, and by the time it was done, it was almost like, you know, I'm not sure how much the weird iPhone footage of blobs of paint actually ended up there. I think quite a lot, but not that much maybe. But he had these kind of, to start with, at least he had this kind of thing we'd done by hand, and then he used that as a mat, like a key mat, and like layered lots of them on top of you. So you start with just like one, like blob, 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 and then loads of blobs until it fills the screen. But then you've got an image that goes from white to green in this way. And then you key the green and you use it as a transition mat. And then it goes from black and white to color, like. Wow. Apart from the swirls, that's how we do the people disappearing. It's the oldest visual effects in film history. It's George Méliès's Man on the Moon. When he disappears and reappears, it's just, they just, you know, pause the camera, he runs off the shot, and they turn it back on, and it's like, he's gone.
Right. Yeah, I saw.
That's what I mean, there's actually like one level up to that, which is we had motion track cameras, or motion track slider.
Okay.
That allowed us to do it in moving shots, because it repeats because what you need to have the empty plate.
Yeah.
And then you need to have the action. And obviously in a still, you've just got okay, this will be fun, right? Just let's just do it as a little test. Okay. So when I click my fingers, press the pause button. All right.
Okay. Oh, and he's gone and he's back.
But to do that, you need to cut to the empty one. So on a still, that's very easy because you literally just stand out frame and you've got the empty one, leave the camera rolling, and you've got the empty plate. But you can do that on a moving shot, but you need to have like a motion track slider. So it does the motion, it's like electronic slider that does the motion exactly the same both times. And then that gives you the empty plate. I think that's something, the slider we used apparently is the same one that Peter Jackson used in the original Lord of the Rings, because he came from the very like low budget world.
Yes.
And even when he was doing Lord of the Rings, he still was using like these techniques that are quite accessible, because he was applying stuff that he knew from the low budget world.
Bruv, you always call at the worst time. What are you saying, Mo? You're good. Say yes. Say yes. Put the control pad down. Go out. Say yes. Have fun.
The black and white color is it was a Wings of Desire, Wim Wenders reference, homage, rip-off, whatever you want to call it. So in his film, his more serious art house Angels film, which is an amazing film, which me and Jack both really like. The Angel world's in black and white, and then when he goes into the human world, it goes to color. So that was the original plan for Bystanders, was to do the same thing. Like ours is going to be a stoner comedy, but it will be the same as, same visual motif as the serious Angel film. And then we started having ideas for the Bystanders world with the DOP and using these like ultra wide angle lenses and like the kind of color palette that we could use using. We were inspired by this 80s film movement, cinema de look, which was kind of a reaction to the more like handheld naturalistic aesthetic of the like French New Wave and other like French films from like the 60s and 70s. And that was in the 80s, like Luc Besson and other people going like, let's make everything really exaggerated and colorful. It's kind of going the other way as these things do, zigzagging. And so we were kind of like, we had all these ideas, and just the cinema de look thing is like, what they do is like motivated, really colorful lighting, but motivated. So you just always find an excuse, but you have like really washed out, everything's really blue or everything's really pink or everything's really green, but you're massively giving yourself creative license, but you still have to find something in the frame to motivate it. So it's not just you're imposing the look on the image. You go, okay, so we want the bar to be all blue. So what we do is we get, okay, there's a fly trap in the wall with a blue, light, and we go, okay, if we put that there, that's making everything blue. Fine.
Here we go again, moaning about Luke.
What does that mean?
Nothing.
Why don't you help him get a job?
Because he doesn't deserve help.
Because all of our ideas were more suited to the Bystanders world rather than the human world. Decided to switch it. And once you switch it, it becomes actually, I realized I didn't necessarily think of this at the time that much, but it actually becomes Wizard of Oz. It's black and white. Kansas is actually sepia, isn't it? In Wizard of Oz, not black and white. It's essentially black, monochrome. So yes, you have black and white at the beginning for the human world, and then like 5 minutes in, when he goes into the bystander world, it goes into color. But you still use black and white as well in the rest of the film to indicate that this is a shot where we're seeing it from the perspective of the humans, not the bystanders.
Yes.
I know it's a comedy, so it feels like, why would you need to keep changing perspectives? But actually in comedy, a lot of it is kind of about perspective. And something that's you can, I don't know how successfully we did it, but the idea was that we would have more opportunities to make jokes, because to suddenly switch and see it from the other person's perspective. I guess the most obvious example is like when they're moving the mug around and the guy's the stoner in the bedroom and you see him smoking his spliff, and then he's like, oh, his can of drink's gone. And like, we know what's happening. We can see the bystanders moving his can of drink around. And then if you cut and it's in black and white, you're suddenly going, oh, like that thing where is that gone? And you're suddenly relating to him. You're not seeing it through the bystanders' eyes. You're now with Luke going, yeah, where has my bloody can gone? And I think that kind of opened the door to that kind of, you would have it anyway, just because you would use other cinema tools to change perspective. But it was a kind of interesting, I thought that was kind of, giving myself an extra tool.
Are you meant to do that?
No.
It was that interesting kind of dynamic, because it's like the human world for these humans is kind of formulaic and mundane. So to have it in black and white was good, because when we see Peter in the human world, right, nothing's going right for him. So going to the bystander world, now it's dynamic, it's color, and it's like he can reinvent himself. He's a new person essentially there. So having that in color, it's just like, yes, this works. This is great. This is an interesting juxtaposition on those two different dimensions of a character.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. I think that's like, it's actually really good that we switched it because of what you just said. Because it is for Pete, it is like a new chance, and it is way more exciting. He's excited by the bystander world.
Are you Luke Gillespie?
Yep.
Thought I'd check out the car crash.
We've all had that moment where we thought like, oh, my guardian angel's a prick, right?
Well, yeah, they've definitely been off the ball for the last few years.
Yeah, they can go absent, right? Go AWOL.
Yes.
What
was the casting like? Because you've written these characters, and you have these kind of relationships. So it's trying to find people to embody your vision. So how was that, finding that cast?
So I had a casting director, Alex Fidelsky, and that was a big kind of like, it really was a very, very independent film, low budget, independent. I knew crew working in the film industry, people that I could pay slightly less than they normally get paid, and would do it because they know me, or because, I don't know, maybe I've done something with them before, or just because they're nice. But I didn't really know enough actors to like populate a whole film. There's some comedians. I've known Sean a long time, Sean Walsh, who's in the film. And I'd known like Marek Larwood was in a web series I did with Sean, and he was in that. Nick Helm I actually have known as well from, he used to be in Brighton where I was based, and used to come to the pub and hang out with me and Sean, and he used to read us his breakup poetry. And he's just amazing guy. He's really funny and really cool. And then so I had some people, and I had a couple of actors from other things I've done. Emily Wyatt was in some film I'd edited, so I'd met her doing I shot some second unit with her.
Oh, is that you? No, I'm really sorry. I don't do selfies.
Scott Harron, who plays Pete, was just someone that just sent in a great tape, and he has a background. He's lead in Wizards vs. Aliens, which is a BBC show written by Russell T Davies, the modern Doctor Who showrunner. So he had a lot of experience of working with. Another person interview said, so I guess he dealt with like tennis balls on sticks a lot. I was like, yeah, exactly, that's it. He'd done a lot of tennis balls and sticks. So but that was really kind of helpful for like the sci-fi stuff. But he's also just, his tape was really, really good. And also he had this vibe. At the time, I thought he was similar to the character. and it turns out he was tricking me with his acting skills, and he just was a little bit more like the character in the audition, not only when he was doing his audition, but like before and afterwards. And when I actually got to know him, he's nothing like the character at all. He's just a good actor. It's funny, you can work in the industry for 15 years, they still can trick you.
Wasn't he trying to take your subject down? Doesn't sound like much of a friend to me.
That specific incident, that was actually, I mean, Norm, you know that it was complicated. Frank, he likes to look at the world through Frank-tinted glasses.
And then Andy Jassy, who plays Luke, was someone that sent in a tape as well. And Georgie Mabel Clark was someone that sent a tape. And their tapes were just I was so... that's such an exciting part of the process, because you never know who you're going to get. You never know. If you're gonna get. And obviously, you know, they wouldn't have been the first ones I'd watched that day. So you know, without wanting to be negative to any, you know, you don't know. Sometimes you watch tapes and you're like, that's not what I wanted. You know, that's not it, or they're not right, or whatever it is. And you're starting to go like, oh, is this a good part? Have I written is this scene actually any good? Maybe I'm bad. Maybe this is all my fault. And then someone turns up with a tape that's just absolutely smashes it and makes everything good and makes everything funny. And you're like, oh no, I'm great, actually. Turns out after all this, I'm fantastic. And then you go, phew.
Yo!
Hello, I was hoping to speak to Mr. Lucas Rupert Gillespie.
Yeah, this is he. I mean, him. I mean, this is me. This is I.
Like Alex Fidelsky, the casting director, you know, he's got to take a lot of credit. And those actors were good because they're good actors. The weird thing about being a director is you realize that a lot of it's just letting other people who are good do their good stuff.
Yes.
And then if you talk about how my film's great, I love this actor, I love this performance, I love this moment. He's a bit full of himself, isn't he? It's like, no, none of this was me.
No, but I think it's the way people go about it, right? Because, you know, for instance, right, there's a lot of actors and they'll talk about a film and they'll be like, yeah, I did all my own stunts. Yeah, I did the thing. And they didn't. But they're taking credit for it. And it's insanity, right? So it's the one thing that always stands out for me when I'm having these kind of conversations or I hear people talk is when they give flowers to all the people that helped them. You know what I mean? And it's just like, because you're talking about the film, it's your film. So you got to be proud of it. You know what I mean? And you should be proud of it. It is a really good film, man. Let me just say that it's a really good film. And just the aesthetic of it, the way it's been edited, all of those things are great. But the supporting cast, because sometimes you'll watch a film and the main cast are superb. The supporting cast, if you're like, well, that was a clunky conversation. Like, that was a weird interaction. But with this, no, all of those elements work. All of those elements work.
That's how I feel. I feel like we got like, you know, the supporting. Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like nobody's letting us down, which is really, really cool.
You know it's your goal, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's just that you haven't moved your little guys in age.
Distinctive look, which I hope like kind of ties it all together. But like a lot of the times, 9 out of 10, if not more, they say, how's this? And I say, just, it's great. I love it. Because I think that's something I didn't do when I was like maybe, for example, in film school. I think because I like taking photos. I've shot films, you know, not anymore, but when I was younger, you know, I like visuals. I like to, you know, I like framing. I like color theory, you know. So I could give you an opinion. You show me an image, I'll give you a bloody opinion. Don't you worry about that. But you can't. You haven't got, you know, and what they're doing is, you know, great. So like you can't, if someone says they like the film, look at the film. Yeah, we had lots of discussions. And yeah, I told him I want a shot a bit like this or a bit like that. I want it to be a mid. I want it to be that. But a lot of the you know, the reality of what the actual shots they're getting is you know, it's not the director. In my case, at least, it's like they will give me a shot and I will just say I love it. I didn't do very much micromanaging at all. A lot of the ones that I really like are ones that are done in much more DIY ways, where we've done it in a way that another film would do it differently, but we've just found a way of getting it done. And yeah, but we didn't stop that from being. I think we didn't stop it from being ambitious.
Mm.
We didn't go like I was like, oh, did you write it in mind that you're not going to be able to do that? It's like, no, we didn't. That's what we wrote it as if we had all the money in the world, and then we were like, how the hell are we going to do that? And then we tried to find kind of DIY low budget filmmaking ways of achieving it. So that was kind of the approach, and I think that's quite. It was stressful at times and difficult, but there was also that stuff is really fun. Finding the solutions to how the hell are we going to do that? Like solution finding process is fun.
Yes. Yeah. When you pull it off, when you be like, maybe I can do this, and you're like, and then you do it, and it's like, fuck, it worked. Yes.
Yeah.
Like there is something to that for sure.
The drinks, like there's a tiny example with the drinks, the like they drink like petrol.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I wondered about that because was it like
petroleum,
or because you're drinking like lighter fluid, like these different things, and it's just like that's interesting.
I can't really remember why. That's really funny. Someone asked me in an interview, like, why do they drink petrol? It's like, yeah, we went a long time ago, and I can't remember. But there was a reason.
What's that you got there? The Cosmo Petroleum. I haven't had one of those in years. You don't mind if I... yeah, sure.
We wanted the glass of drink to be like as if it had like chemicals like bubbling around inside it. And then I was in lockdown. I was on my phone and like on Instagram Reels, there was this mum in America showing us how to make a lava lamp for her kid. And it was like, here's how to make a lava lamp for your kid, and here's like food dye, and then so she's got this food dye, and she's got these like Alka-Seltzers, and she's got like vegetable oil, so all stuff you've got maybe at home, and she makes this lava lamp, and I'm like, you know what, that could be our Cosmo Petroleums, that could be our drinks. So, and then obviously to get from that to what we actually had is a lot of work and a lot of talent. So all I did is just go to Carlotta, like, here's an Instagram reel. That could maybe be something like that. We could start with that. And then she, really rolled with it and, experimented with different dyes and different concoctions of stuff.
But yeah, it was that other visual element that, gave it that unique DNA that you don't always see in a film, because it's always, when you oftentimes you watch a fantasy film and they'll go, this isn't a fantasy world, but you see people go to this fantasy world and they're drinking beer and they're eating sandwiches, and it's just like, but that's what everyone does. Right? They're just doing that. So they're doing the same thing as I would do, but it's meant to be this fantasy unique world. So when you see someone do this, add this new dynamic to it, that's always like, nice. I like that.
Yeah. And when you're writing with someone essentially like an old friend from school, you get a bit like silly. You just have an idea like, oh, what if this? What if this? And you don't stop each other. What if they just drink petrol? Yeah, that's good.
Let's go.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
What the hell is that? I'm really not sure about this, Frank.
Be sure.
There is a kind of political way you can look at it, I think. Again, it wasn't talked about with me and Jack, but I think it was kind of went unsaid, which was that we were living in a time, we wrote this when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister. We're living in, this is a film about the people that are meant to be in charge of us being lazy, irresponsible, self-serving, and drunk. And we were living in a time where we had the Boris Johnson government, I don't think that's a coincidence, whether we meant it or not. So you could, even if we're not making a political point per se, I doubt anyone will ever do this, but if anyone was to be analyzing it from a socio-political point of view in 20 years' time, going, what does this tell us about 2020 or whatever? you could say, well, that was the vibe. That we felt like the people that were meant to be in charge of us were very irresponsible and not had our best interests. Now there's a question of like, okay, well, if you want to make that point, that's not in there. That's just if you were to analyze it, which no one would. But then you go, okay, well, could you make a film that is more overt with a political message and kind of has a bit more depth in that kind of regard? And I think I would want to, but I'm kind of glad that I didn't with my first film.
Yeah.
And the metaphor that I give is it's like learning a new language. It's if your in-laws are French and you're learning French, but your French isn't very good, it's not a good idea to have a political discussion with your father-in-law because you'll get it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's touchy. So if you're a first-time filmmaker, I wasn't confident enough. In hindsight, maybe I could have done it and got away with it, actually, because I actually think I think I was able to control the pieces on the board more than I knew I would. But I don't think I had the confidence before I'd made this film that I might get it wrong. So if I did something about zeitgeisty or political, about anything like anything kind of, I mean, anything kind of important or real or not that's too much of a broad, but anything, yeah, let's just say political. If I do anything about political and you're like, am I articulate enough in filmmaking, or could I get it wrong and then let myself down and it'd be cringe, or even worse, be offensive, so you kind of stay clear, or I kind of stay clear from anything that you could get wrong in that sense. Well, to some extent, because I think that's also the case with not just political, but also the case with kind of personal and emotional stuff as well. I think there's an element of wanting to learn the language and wanting to make sure that you're how ironic, articulate enough to get your point across so you're not misunderstood. There's a lot of the time where you just want to watch something a bit fun and silly. And I kind of hope that this fills that position for people, but also has some artistic interests to give it a bit of spice as well. That's kind of my hope with it,
Yeah, no, I think it does hit those criteria, man.
But it's released on a Sunday, which is perfect, so people can watch it on a hangover, which is when you want to watch those films, right? It's a hangover film.
God stands up for losers, like he does for you and I.
And how can people keep track of the film and yourself?
So we have an Instagram for the film, which is at The Bystanders Film. We're also on Facebook. The film's also on Facebook, The Bystanders. And I'm on Instagram, which is my full name, is my handle. So at Gabriel Foster Prior.
Boom. People, the links will be on the website. So make sure you go check out the film, hit the Instagram, go follow Gabriel, because obviously there's some big things coming. There's after you've seen the film, you will definitely believe that. And it'll be interesting to see the evolution of your career, my friend. But
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on and giving me your time, man. This has been a great conversation.
I've loved it. I've loved it.
I wish I've got to go to work in a minute.
Yeah, so I know. I've got to go as well. I feel like
I'm just like, God damn it! I wish I wasn't working. I just want to continue this conversation. But no, it's been great. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, we should keep in touch. And thanks a lot for having me on. I think it's really cool what you do and giving indie filmmakers a platform to promote their work. And yeah, it's been really fun as well.